Well, welcome to this video. We're now looking at line graphs, which is a way of representing data, something you've probably seen and used before. So this video hopefully won't be too long. So within data, and looking at different ways of representing our data, we need to be considering the number of variables. These are the number of things that we're measuring when we're making our graph. We can have data that is univariate and bivariate. Now, if you just think about the words and break them up, uni, we're going to think of things like a unicycle, and that's going to represent one. Unicycle has one wheel, and that has one. Whereas a bicycle has two wheels, so we've got two. So in this, we're going to have univariate data, which is where we have one variable, and bivariate data is where we're comparing two variables. So some examples for univariate data, you might be putting them on these types of representations. So sector chart, a bar chart or histogram, and then a box plot. We're measuring one thing. For example, your favorite food, or how quickly you can do 50 star jumps. We're measuring one thing. If we move to bivariate data, we're going to get things that look more like this. You can see here we have two axes because we're actually comparing the relationship between two different things. When we move up here, what is happening along this axis? So we've got two things. So we might have how someone's height changes over time. We've got height and we have time there. Or we may have two less related things than just that. But that's where bivariate is where we bring in two things. When we're looking at line graphs, we're now dealing with bivariate data. Up until now, we've been looking at univariate. So a line graph. Hopefully you are very familiar with line graphs and you know how to draw them and plot points on them. Some important things to know about our line graphs is where we put the variables. So with a line graph, we're usually going to be looking at time. And along the bottom is where we're going to put time. It's just the standard that we use. As we go through, we're going to be going through time. So we call that the independent variable. So that's the thing that we're not changing. We're just taking measurements every certain segment of time, every year or every day or whatever it is. And the dependent variable depends on the time. And that goes up the horizontal axis, the vertical axis, and it's the thing that we're measuring every time. And we're really looking at the relationship between time and that dependent variable. So this is the line graph. When we're looking at something other than time as one of our variables, that's when we generally get to a scatter plot. But line graphs generally will have time down the bottom and the dependent variable up the side. Okay, so in our line graphs, I'm just going to put these all here. We can describe what's happening with a number of words. When we look at scatter plots, we're going to see a few more of these. But with a line graph, we're really looking at, is the thing increasing or is it decreasing? So you can see here, we have a general increase. Here we have a general decrease. Even here, over time, if we find the average line, or line of best fit, we're going to have an increase happening. So we can see what an increase and decrease is. We can also be talking using the terms at a constant rate. So you can see this here is increasing at a pretty constant rate. It's not exactly flat, but it is a very constant rate. Compare that to this one. Instead of being a constant rate, that one's fluctuating a lot. So we can compare not only if it's increasing or if it's decreasing, but if it's going constant or if it's fluctuating a lot as it goes there. Now another way of describing it is using an upward or a downward trend. So technically this data isn't completely increasing because at times it is going down. So we would usually describe this as having an upward trend, which is where we look at the line of best fit and what's happening over time. The line is trending upwards, so it has an upward trend. If we had this one going down like this, we would have a downward trend. We can also compare bivariate data, and we can do this by putting the two pieces of data on the same line graph. So you can see here, we've got the population of Japan and Australia being compared. Now I could use those words from before to talk about this. And so I'm going to use the word trend. Japan has, in this case, a population which is trending positively, or it's increasing, has an increasing trend and Australia has a decreasing trend over time. So we can be comparing our data by putting it onto a line graph. You can see visually what's happening, and you can also talk about it in the same way as before. So what now? We've got some activities to do on Canvas. If you're not sure about anything I've talked about or need some more help, please do let me know. Otherwise, continue with the work I've provided. Thanks.